The ancient philosopher Plato relayed a powerful story from his teacher Socrates, known as the allegory of the cave. It goes like this. A group of people have lived their entire lives chained inside a cave. They face a blank wall, unable to turn their heads or move their bodies. People move back and forth along this walkway, carrying objects and puppets. The flickering firelight casts shadows of these objects onto the cave wall, and the voices of those carrying those objects echo from the wall where the shadows are cast. So the shadows on the wall and the voices echoing are all the prisoners have ever experienced. To them, it's their entire reality. They have no idea that there is a whole world out there beyond the cave, filled with real objects and real fire, not just flickering shadows. Now imagine one of the prisoners breaks free from his chains and starts to make his way up and out of the cave. At first, his escape would be painful and disorienting. His eyes are only accustomed to dim shadows, and the bright daylight coming from the outside world is blinding. But gradually, his eyes adjust and he starts to see things as they truly are. He sees the fire that created the shadows and the real objects being carried along the walkway, the cave entrance, and the vast landscape beyond. He eventually climbs all the way out of the cave and discovers a world filled with sunlight, trees, animals, and even water. For the first time ever, he gazes into a pool of water and beholds his own reflection. It's a moment of profound revelation as he experiences his true self. At that moment, he realizes that he is not just the shadows on the wall. He is something far greater and a part of something infinitely beautiful. In the previous lessons, we explored the power of mindfulness, the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment, observing our thoughts, emotions, and sensations with objectivity and curiosity rather than getting lost in them. And we've discovered the practice of meditation to train our minds to come back to that mindful state again and again. Mindfulness is a powerful tool to notice what's happening within us, but it doesn't necessarily answer the question, who is the one doing the noticing? While we can observe the shadows and echoes in the cave without identifying with them, there's still a more profound level of experience waiting to be discovered. Self-inquiry takes us on this next step of exploration. While mindfulness is about becoming the witness of our inner experience, self-inquiry is about questioning the nature of that witness. It invites us to shift our focus from the contents of our experience to the container that holds them. This is the true self that I talked about in the first lesson of this stage of the Phoenix 90. The pure, unchanging, and enduring awareness that witnesses all. When we discover this true self, we experience a deep sense of freedom. We find a profound peace, and knowing that our being is unshaken by external circumstances. The ancient Taoist text, the Tao Te Ching, offers powerful insights that resonate with the practice of self-inquiry. Consider this passage. Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. This passage points to the distinction between our usual thinking self and the deeper wisdom that arises when we inquire to the nature of the I that we use when we say, I am. True understanding doesn't come from accumulating information about the external world. It comes from mastering yourself and stepping back from the usual activity of the mind. Self-inquiry is the practice of stepping back from our minds and truly knowing yourself. It's about turning our attention away from the constant stream of thoughts, emotions, and external demands. It's about forming a relationship with the true self. To describe the simplest process of self-inquiry, I'll pull from the words of Sri Ramana Maharshi. What does it matter however many thoughts arise? At the very moment each thought rises, if one vigilantly inquires, to whom did this rise? And it will be known to me. If one then inquires, who am I? The mind will turn back to its source, the self, and the thought which has risen will also subside. By repeatedly practicing this, the power of the mind to reside in its source increases. Rupert Spira helps to expand on this. He says that self-inquiry, or the investigation into the nature of ourself, is often initiated by a question such as, what is the essential nature of myself? What is the nature of the knowing through which I know my experience? What element of my experience remains consistently present throughout all the changing experience? What element of my experience remains consistently present throughout all experience? Or simply, who am I really? Initially, it's best to practice self-inquiry during your formal mindfulness meditations, but then also informally at any time throughout your day. You may find it helpful to come back to this awareness at the end of a task or event to punctuate your activity with the clear experience of being. Some other crucial times that you might practice this are when a strong emotion arises. Before reacting, even for a moment, ask yourself, who is aware of this fear, anger, sadness, etc.? During moments of stress or worry, use self-inquiry to find that part of you that remains untouched through the storm of thoughts. Or anytime you find yourself over-identifying with a thought, remind yourself, I am not the thought. I am the awareness of that thought. Remember, self-inquiry is an ongoing exploration, not a destination. With practice, it will become easier to notice the gap between your thoughts and feelings and the pure awareness of the I that observes them. Over time, this practice can lead to profound insights and a deep sense of inner freedom. Just as the prisoner in Socrates' allegory, when escaping the cave, comes to realize the reality of himself and discovers that he is a part of the whole world, more immense and beautiful than he could have ever imagined, self-inquiry can open us to a deeper truth about ourselves and our place in the universe. This realization often manifests as a profound sense of interconnectedness, a feeling of oneness with all things, a recognition of the underlying unity that some describe as God. Let this idea sink in while you contemplate the age-old words of the poet and mystic Rumi. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop.